Hope this message finds you well. I'm not sure if you remember me, but your dad mentioned that you may not. I am one of your many cousins on your dad's side. Back in 2001, when I was 13 and you were around 4 or 5 years old, we briefly lived together in California at your grandparents' house. I hope you are doing well, and I would love to reconnect and catch up. I understand that it may seem a little odd for me to reach out, but I haven't seen you or your sibling in many years and would love to check in on you. Please feel free to message me on Instagram if you're open to connecting. I look forward to hearing from you soon.
So, as you can hear that this is an email I just sent. These people have lived a fantasy that I will refuse to let them live. You're going to hear what they've done to children. They tortured children of all ages. Kids as young as 3, 4, 5, 7 years old. And the torture includes sexual torture. You're going to hear that. And those entities running this program are filled with pedophiles. They manipulate us in so many disturbing ways and disgusting ways. Then try to make you believe that they are doing it to avenge and this and that. Now this letter, it's a letter that I just sent to these cousins of mine. And they tried to bring up what I did when I was a kid. I was in middle school, 13 years old. And what I did, they tried to exaggerate. I did something to myself. But something I look back, it's embarrassing. And so they're doing this, pretending like, oh, would you pay? You pay now for what you did as a kid. I was like, I will never let you live your fantasy. Because one, you try to exaggerate what I did as a kid. You try to exaggerate to the point that's disgusting. I heard like a client say something disturbing, talking about Jack. I was like, and try to exaggerate and make me imagine something else that what really happened. Because what I did to myself was me and myself. They try to add some other things into it. I don't want to go into details because it's disturbing to talk about this as an adult man. And I don't want to talk about what a dumbass kid who's 13 years old did. But let's just say that it was a time that I did something to myself. Now, looking back, it's humiliating. It's not humiliating. It's embarrassing. Because I'm a grown man in my late 30s. And when I think back at that, I was like, what was I thinking as a child? But you understand, as an adult, that children are what they are, children. They do things impulsively and stupid, as a child can do, especially a child who's 13, 14 years old. Now, these people are like, oh, you're doing it for this person. I was like, no, you're not. You wanted me to somehow let you escape from reality. They even talk about molesting this kid. No, I'll never let you live your fantasy. Matter of fact, the only reason why I sent an email to this person is not because I think that this person is been traumatized or anything else. She doesn't even remember me. I know that because, as you heard in the email, the dad's like, oh, she don't really remember you, because I talked to him way before I was like a target individual who knew I was a target individual. He was like, she doesn't really remember me. I was like, okay, well, and me at that time, I don't even remember this moment, this of a damn impulsive child doing something stupid. So I know that. So I don't think that I've impacted her in any ways. I don't even think she knows I'm alive, or she doesn't even know about me. But at this point, they just want to pretend like we're doing it for her. And I find where she is. I see how artsy she is. She makes videos and things like that. And, one of the videos, she talks about depression. And I don't know if it's part of her art or whatever. But they're going to try to be like, you see, you destroy her. You made her feel like that. Because it's like, no, she doesn't even know who I am. She doesn't even know I exist. Whatever is happening to her, it has nothing to do with me. She doesn't even know me. But one thing is for sure, I will never let these people escape. I will never let them think that these people destroy and torture children and women all around the world. I know what they do. I've shown what they do. You're going to hear what they do to children specifically. Forget about the psychological torture. The actual act of torturing and abusing children, consisting of sexual torture, using technology, weapons that are super advanced, that they can do these horrible things remotely. And they want me to somehow escape. Every time they try to do these things, I'm like, when they try to make me think of, well, you pay for what you did. It's like, what? trash. Wanna hear what you guys do to kids? Knowing that you have kids, you're disgusting trash. Listen to what they do to children. Listen to how horrible they are to children. Listen to what they have caused people to do. They are the foulest human on earth. I can never let them escape. And the psychological torture, I've talked about it enough. It is so disgusting. To pretend that you care so much for kids that you can manipulate people in these disgusting ways to experience nasty things. In every way, they show what they do. And to add the cherry on top of all the cherries is the sexual torture. On top of the sexual torture of children is the entities running this program that's developing this technology. Those who's contracting perps who are trying to create this psyop. They've been telling me how it's over. It's been over the day I was putting this program. It was actually over way before. I think today I'm in a better shape than I was the day this thing came up to me. When this on August 19, 2019, that was the worst time of my life. Worse than today. Today, I know so much of what they do. I know how disgusting they are. I know the pedophilia issues. I know the torture of children. I know how the way they manipulate people. I know how global it is. I know who they target. All of that. Now, when this thing came to me on August 19, 2019, that was really when it was really over for me. At that point, it was the worst time in my life because I didn't even understand who they were. I didn't see them for truly what they were. I didn't understand that they even tortured children. They were bringing up things about me as a kid. I was like, oh, I was a child. Finding out the reason why they try to use that so much is because they try to vilify people any ways possible because this fucking lowlife involved in a program that do horrible things to babies. Infants, you're going to hear that. And so they try to pick on whatever they can that can try to make you vilify you. This truly and honestly, once I understood how old I was, I stopped even thinking about, okay, wow, I was just a kid. And I know you're trying to exaggerate what I did as a child. But that's what a kid can do. I can see a child, 13, 14-year-old, do this thing. And that's a kid that's just something impulsive. It's not something that happened multiple times. It's something that happened once because that's how impulsive it was for a child to do. Now, this trash, those people are parents. Those people have kids. Are involved in a program where not only they manipulate people in these disgusting ways, but the entities running this program are filled with pedophiles. And they're talking about a kid's dumb, impulsive moments while they're in a program that torture children. And the entities running this program, out of control pedophilia is going on over there. So for me, it's never going to happen where I'm going to not remember what they do. The humiliation that they do things to children, that the entities running this program are filled with pedophiles. And it's unbelievable the amount of child porn this director of DSS was seeing on this when examining computers of employees there. And this trash is like, we dare to frame you. Yes, you who dare to torture children will dare to frame me. You will dare to implant child porn. And then try to talk about me as a child. Like, oh, for her, trash ass. For that 4 or 5-year-old child that you're going to understand. You're going to hear. Being tortured sexually. They have mental handicaps too. And they're like, no, this is different. No, you are a part of this. This is what you're part of. This is what is happening to me. It's what's happening to this child. You guys work for this program that does this to children. You harm children. So to all my target individuals, please listen to what they do. To anybody who's listening to this, listen to what they do. Target an individual or not. It's obvious what they do to kids.
A speech-language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all of my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic, and they used her to threaten the most torture in me as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions, despite having a great day at school. This was highly unusual behavior for her, as she usually behaved very well during her therapy sessions and had been making incredible progress on all of her therapy goals. This was used to threaten extreme torture on me, making me scream and cry, etc. They would make the kids act out the kinds of torture that would later be done on me. For example, they would also sometimes make her bite her hand, threatening to make me bite my hands, as they often do. One day, she had a large, severe bite mark on her arm. She has also grabbed her crotch, saying, "Ow," and this was used to threaten me with severe sexual torture. One day, I also observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity. Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day. And that's also when they made it worse when I eat. They work with a 4-year-old little girl with Down syndrome, as well as her 5-year-old sister who also has Down syndrome. I observed both of these girls suddenly grabbing their genitals in pain and verbalizing, "Ow." I observed this at least on 1 or 2 occasions for each of them during their separate sessions. During one session, I observed one of my 3-year-old clients suddenly grab his crotch and lean forward in his chair. And then he made a frightening grimace of severe pain. I asked him what was wrong and if he needed to use the restroom, but he said no to having to use the restroom and was not able to verbalize anything more due to his language delay. He looked puzzled and bewildered. Even though I had stated that it was time to do more work right before this incident, I quickly just let him play another game, and he quickly returned to his joyful, happy self again. In other sessions, he has also grabbed his crotch and said, "Ow," while looking up at me.
9 and Avery 16 months old. Not only have I been going through this, but my entire family has suffered right by my side. We have all experienced the same type of harassment on different levels. We have all suffered the same symptoms while this harassment was going on. Some of our physical symptoms include severe tooth decay and vision loss, unexplained rashes and burns, severe headaches, mood swings, anxiety, thyroid problems, high blood pressure, heart problems, vision loss and cancer. Two of my children were born premature, which I attribute to this. Our son Dylan, now age 9, was born very premature. He was born at 31 weeks. During her pregnancy with Dylan, we were being targeted more so than other times. At the delivery, there were weird men walking and waiting around the hospital. Right outside our delivery room window, there was a white cargo van parked with 2 suspicious men inside. They were there the entire labor, a delivery. Our son had to be transported to another hospital 45 minutes away. When arriving to the Toa hospital, those same men and van were present. Three of my children have severe rashes that have not been explained by several doctors. These rashes have been present for several years at a time. If interested, I will gladly furnish you with detailed photos of the rashes. Our infant daughter, at 3 weeks old, was diagnosed with Lerner syndrome. This was after a severe rash appeared on her body after a few days of torture. We were told by a couple doctors to take her home and love her and spend the rest of the time we have with her. They told us she would ultimately die from this syndrome. Thank God that Lerner syndrome was not what affected our daughter. Doctors are still dumbfounded by her rash and symptoms. Sadly, we know that her symptoms were effects from the torture this poor innocent 3-week-old baby endured. Recently, I lost complete time. I exhibited the flashing lights. My 9-year-old son Dylan complained about the lights. You will often hear that vision is something that is greatly affected with this type of torture.
Ms. Catherine Nestor.
My name is Catherine Nestor, and I'm from Pennsylvania. This commission has spoken of a long history of abuse of the human research subject. Although no one mentioned MKUltra today, President Clinton recently apologized for this. My young child and I have been used as non-consensual test subjects. We have been subjected to COINTELPRO-like stalking, remote neural monitoring, and electromagnetic torture, resulting in psychological and physical damage. And I won't go into the details of that because I have 4 pages written in here that is very similar to Connie's testimony. Please do not wait 70 years to investigate this. I ask Dr. Amy Gutman to begin today. There is new work for the Commission for Human Subject Protection on our shores. And please give us a dramatic response, Susan.
Okay, so you hear this. You hear that they actually torture children. They actually do horrible things to children. They have been torturing them sexually, molesting them using technology that can make you feel like somebody is doing things to you. They actually hurt them sexually. As you heard a 3-year-old saying ouch because he felt some pain. A 4 or 5-year-old Down syndrome's children, 1 4, 1 5, both with Down syndrome having sexual torture applied onto them using this technology. A 7-year-old sexually tortured. Now, the reason why I keep bringing that up is because these people doing these things to me want to escape. Obviously, it's not going to change what's going to happen to me. It's just I don't want anybody involved in the program that does these things to children delude themselves that I can ever let them escape into the fantasy they've created, into the distorted reality when they're involved in a program that tortures children sexually. When I hear this trash like we're going to rat to, it's like I'd rather die in hell than having to live my life, try to block out the fact that I'm in a program that me, myself, am involved in that does these things to children. Cowards, nasty trash, and then find a way to vilify anybody that's involved in this program. And even to the point where you're trying to talk about me as a kid and the stupid thing I did as a child, try to even exaggerate that while you're in a program that literally use Department of Defense technology because you're tasked to apply this technology onto civilians, human subjects, including children. The torture includes sexual torture. And then they want to somehow escape using these psyops of ways of they try to interact with me. You know, with me, V2K, they can use their voices to interact with me, right? They found ways, in the cowardly ways, to address me. And then have the audacity to say, we're going to frame you, see you in jail. It's like, I'm talking to people who torture children. But the way they're saying it is like as if they are some kind of avengers. Can you imagine being involved in this? And try to dumb yourself down to or make yourself believe that you're protecting children and try to talk about me as a child. I'm here literally going back to talk to this person that don't even remember, doesn't even know me. But because I don't want these people to escape. I don't want them to believe this fantasy they put together. I'm going to go see this person if I have to, just for the sole purpose that these people who involved in a program that torture children do not escape in the fantasy. That's my purpose here. My purpose is for anybody who's involved in a program that's capable of torturing and doing horrible things to kids, never delude themselves, never live into their reality, which is distorted. I can't. I guess that's my purpose. For this weak low-life trash who played everything, all this fantasy, even selling their own children to pedophiles. Why am I saying selling to children to pedophiles? Because the entity is contracting these bottom feeders. But in fact, unfortunately, I couldn't find where I found this article that was talking about clearance, short-term clearance. And they were saying that there's so many people they need to contract to hire. They don't have the time to do a proper clearance, a proper background check. They hired so many people for the purpose of maintaining weapons or weapon development of something like that they have to contract so many people that they don't have enough resources to do a background check on everybody who's involved in that. Those are this trash. And then you know how they try to make themselves believe, no, we are at war. You're not at war. I know what you are actually doing. I'm a human subject. You obviously get some incentives. You implement whatever you need to implement to get the result that you want to get out of me. At the same time, you find ways to make yourself believe that you're some kind of avengers or some ways to cope with the reality that you're actually involved in a program that does so much horrible things to even babies. And you know your day will come. But in the meantime, you don't want to think about that. And so you're going to do whatever you need to do. You're going to trick yourself in whatever ways you can trick yourself to make yourself believe that you're something else. But the humiliation of reality coming in while I'm here sending a message to somebody that I haven't talked to I haven't seen in years. She doesn't even know who I am. And I talk about, hey, dude. And it's me when I'm 13 years old. While these people are grown people doing things to children. And be like, no, you pay now. And coming up with fantasy, like, no, you destroy us. Like, she doesn't even know who I am. Her father was like telling me, literally, it's like, she doesn't even remember you. But in that deluded reality, them who torture children, them who do horrible things to babies, want to make themselves believe there's something else. Listen to the entities that they work for. Listen to reality. We're not talking about children. We're talking about grown-ass people doing things to children. Doing horrible things to children. You're gonna hear the only child porn. The only child porn on government devices. They are filled with pedophiles in these agencies. Like, I'm normally like, listen, I'm sure if this pedophiles everywhere. But this is not like just one here, two here. Like, no, thousands. Listen, you're gonna hear this from this BuzzFeed article, and then you're going to hear the Globe writing an article in 2010 after this Operation Flicker. Operation Flicker is this. Operation Flicker was an investigation on this website where people were paying subscriptions for child porn. This operation was led by immigration. Immigration, was involved because this is something that was global. It's coming from external world, like an external country, came from I don't know what country, but they ended up getting people who work for the Pentagon. And this big operation pointed out and suspected there was 5,000 or so of Pentagon employees that only child porn, some of them on the computer devices. And only very few, single digit out of 5,000 ended up being actually prosecuted. Okay, that doesn't end there. 2016, this director who just newly director to the DSS, the Defense Security Services, these people are in charge of making sure that all assets, all information that is coming from the DoD, all the weapon information, all of that is safe. That there's no moles, they do the background check and everything else. They found out that there's a bunch of people in these agencies that only child porn. He is so shocked that he say the amount of child porn I fucking see when I'm examining computers there is unbelievable. These people involved in this program, the way they have been tricking themselves to make them think that this is the norm. I was like, they try to find ways to be comical about it. Oh, you're going to be their assets. I'm like, you're fucking shit. You understand what you're trying to counter? They've been humiliated by reality. While talk about me as a 13-year-old. And now I'm here just for the sake of not letting them live their fantasy, willing to go talk to this person that doesn't even know me for the single purpose to just make sure that whatever you do to me, no, you're not doing it for her. No, that you're not doing it for anything I've done, but you're doing it because you are contracted and you're an opportunist that wants to enjoy this fantasy of yours of being God. By what price you sold your soul to pedophiles. And you're involved in a program that does so much horrible things to the most vulnerable, even babies, children. And I'm so glad I never got that easy opportunity to do what they do. So listen to this.
8 billion brains on the planet, potentially. Read them. Brains. Underwater.
How do you explain this is happening to Len? How do you rationalize?
Come in private. Hold on.
Okay, yeah.
Some of them are pretty crazy. They have names like Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz, And those are the confusion tactics. And when they're breaking down the ego of the human through all the pains and tortures and the verbal breakdown, these are typical CIA torture scripts. I mean, Kubark manual. And they do good cop, bad cop interrogation called Jeff and Mutt, and they go right through the list, right? Just textbook. So whoever the handlers are on the other side of this synthetic telepathy, they're following the handbook perfectly.
2-year-old and a 6-year-old. He was simply fired. One employee purchased sexually explicit videos of young girls filmed by their mothers. He resigned. One employee estimated that he had viewed up to 1,400 sexually abusive images of children while on agency assignments. Not sure what actions, if any, were taken by him. One contractor arranged for sex with an undercover FBI agent. I think that you mentioned that. Posing as a child, he had his contract revoked. One CIA staffer was charged with child sexual crimes, and the employee was also under investigation for mishandling classified material. But sexual crimes involving children, says BuzzFeed, including the viewing of images of abuse, have been uncovered at other agencies that handle sensitive information. In a November 2009 report, the Department of Defense acknowledged that dozens of Pentagon staff members or contractors had such images. In 2014, the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community found that 2 officials from the National Reconnaissance Office, which oversees America's spy satellites, acknowledged viewing images of child sexual abuse during polygraph examinations. This is so disturbing. At a symposium in 2016, Daniel Payne, a top Pentagon security official, said that when workers' computers were examined, the amount of child porn I see is just unbelievable. Is this something that is happening in the general evil?
Allie, we're told, and when I was put through recruitment into the intel community, you're put through polygraphs, you're put through a rigorous selection process. Why aren't these people weeded out? Why are so many pedophiles allowed to be given top-level security clearance? Remember, these aren't just people walking in off the street and saying, hey, can I get hired? Can I get a job? You're put through an extremely rigorous background check screening process. It's called an SSBI, single scope background investigation. There are people, they interview you, they interview your family, they interview your contacts, they go through your online footprint, they go through everything. So why is it that when they're going through these footprints, they're not checking, these digital footprints, they're not checking for so many pedophiles getting through their ranks? If it were up to me, you need to go into Congress, and Congress needs to launch a brand new church committee, number one, to talk about domestic surveillance operations, but number two, to ask the question, why are there so many pedophiles sitting behind
CIA raping children and sexually assaulting children, and they're not being prosecuted? Where are you?
They'll say we're the Russian government, we're the Chinese government, we're evil aliens, we're Satan's, satanic ritual abuse. And I've heard all the stories. One guy believed it was some 14-year-old kid with an Xbox that lived next door. The trickery really is that great when you're under hypnosis that people will believe something other than a massive government could do this.
Washington, the Pentagon's top investigator yesterday vowed an all-out pursuit of any employees who downloaded child pornography, adding that his division would review the 1,700 potential cases that were referred to military investigators 4 years ago but were never screened. Gordon S. Hedel, the Department of Defense's Inspector General, said in a statement to the Globe that his office is working aggressively to correct the mishandling of cases identified in a multi-department government probe called Operation Flicker. I can assure those with questions that my office is conducting an aggressive pursuit of anyone implicated in Operation Flicker and that it is a key investigative priority, Hedel said in his first public statement on the matter. The Pentagon agency has faced intense criticism in recent months for its part of a nationwide child pornography investigation that was spearheaded by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, which has jurisdiction for such federal crimes under its mandate. The Globe reported earlier this week the Pentagon had checked only 3,500 out of 5,200 people who were suspected of downloading child pornography. The partial screening of that list, which was conducted in 2007, identified 302 people who were military personnel, civilian employees, or private contractors. Some of those held high-level security clearances and worked at sensitive intelligence agencies such as the National Security Agency, which eavesdrops on enemy communications. Several also accessed the images on their work computers, a separate violation. Out of the 302 cases, 70 were eventually pursued, and only a handful resulted in prosecutions.
So, you hear this. Let me just bring back some important facts. The Globe reported earlier this week the Pentagon had checked only 3,500 out of the 5,200 people who were suspected of downloading child pornography. And out of this total of 5,000, 7 were eventually pursued, and only a handful resulted in prosecution. Now, this is the reality. For me, they tell me how they're going to implant child porn. They're like, are bad. So, try to find ways to sound cool. Because the reality is, this is what they do. This is the way they manipulate people. They will try to bring up some things. They will try to manipulate and create these ways or make me think today. Because they wanted to counter this. These people do this pedophilia type of tormenting. These people are run by entities filled with pedophiles. These people are involved in a program that tortured children. You heard it all. I'm not making up these things. Those are testimonials you heard. Those are articles you heard. That's is all people say the same thing. For me, it's just like creating things in my head and perceiving and narrations and exaggerations of reality, everything. Because they know what they did. They know what they're part of. They sold their soul to pedophiles. There is a receipt for that. They are never going to be what they wanted to present themselves as. And now they live life where implanting child porn is something they think is fierce. After the fact that you hear this thing, in every way, whatever way I die, Jesus, this is the things you have to counter. The way they manipulate me today and try to use that as validation is just what this trash can do. Earlier what they're trying to make me think when I was listening to this that you just heard it and try to counter that, they make me think of there's this person that I sent a message to. I saw a old picture, some picture of her like in 2016. I think at that point she's like maybe 17-ish or 18-ish, and I'm like, oh, well, look at her. Because I remember her being very young, like a 4 or 5 year old. And I was like, oh, look at her. It's like, oh, you see? It's like, you see what? It's like, you just thought she was old. It's like, oh, look good for her. What? Just to change in my brain. So would you guess her age? It's like, what? I just see her as some young person. Growing up from when she was like a little girl to like now still like young, but, closer to adulthood. But try to like create this nasty manipulation because the reality is what you heard. You hear a CIA agent doing things to 2-year-old, 6-year-old, downloading child porn. I mean, the nastiness in this world that they live in is just things you can't believe. That's why they're so comfortable doing that to you. That's why they're so comfortable making you think about children in disgusting ways. I mean, the dreams. This is why they can do all these foul things to even children. And so when there's a moment where they want to feel special and feel, not special, but feel like they're some kind of avenger and create a fantasy to escape from reality, they're going to do that. I just refuse to let them do that. I'm not going to let you live in a fantasy where you think being involved in a program that can do these horrible things is okay and make yourself believe that you never, this is what you do. I know what you guys do. I rather right in hell to be involved in a program that does these things. Some of them think, okay, me personally, I've never participated in the torture of these children. But you personally cannot do anything to me. You can do nothing to me. You can definitely not do what you're doing to me right now. But you being involved in a program that tortures children and women can do these things to me. So for me, I'll never let them escape. You sold your soul to pedophiles. You want me to start thinking these disgusting ways. You want me to accept that you're doing it for whoever you try to present yourself. Never. You torture babies as young as the person I'm sending a message when she was 4 or 5 years. Never. My purpose is for all these people who find this opportunity, this easy opportunity for them to escape. I can't do that. That's my purpose. It's my purpose to let them know that there's a warning. You can never look at yourself the same way. I refuse to let you do that. As for me, I'm not a saint. I've done things that I'm not proud of. Me as a kid doing this thing is just, that to me, it's not true. Honestly, I'm not going to even say so. It doesn't even really, it's not something I look back, I'm like, it's not like, I don't even feel like regretful for real. I feel like, what was I thinking as a child? I understand kids, that's what kids can do. I understand that. That's how I see that as a stupid child doing something stupid. Impulsive child just turned 14 years old. Who's 13, 14 years old. I understand that children can think like that. I know my real imperfections as me, how I think, or what I've actually done as even an adult. I'll never think of these ways of perceiving children as something is me. I know that's what this technology can do. They manipulate us in so many ways. I've shown the different manipulations, and I've talked about it. I've shown that others have experienced the same thing. And today they even try to say, now what we're doing? We're doing this thing where we make you think the way you thought when you were a child. I'm not a child. And to be honest, what I did as a child is something I look back as an adult. I was like, oh, I'm embarrassed. But I think that I was like, I'd regret in the sense that, oh my gosh. I was like, no, I was like, I was just a stupid kid doing a stupid thing as a child who's not fully developed. And that's why it was an impulsive moment that never even stuck in my brain. But I know what these people do to children and how they destroy these people's life, these kids. And I can never let them escape. For me, it's never going to be an escapism. Yes, I'm imperfect. No, I know that this pedophilia thing is what you guys make me experience. Yes, I know that you know that children can do something this stupid. And I almost even feel stupid to even try to send her. She doesn't even know who I am. But if it means that this trash don't escape, I'll do it.